our brand new Tim Holtz Chapter 2 range, or specifically my favourite die from the Chapter 2 range so far, or certainly my favourite Colorized die, and this is Bernice. Now, before I go any further, make sure, if you haven't already seen the amazing new range of Chapter 2 dies, go to the Sizzix website. So that's going to be sizzix.co.uk if you are in the UK or in Europe, and it's going to be sizzix.com if you're over in the US. So make sure you just go and have a look at our Tim Holtz Chapter 2 range, because the dies in this range are amazing. They're all very stylized in classic Tim Holtz style, really lovely, lively images that you can create with them. I've had so much fun using them so far, and I know that you're going to have just as much fun. So again, this is the lovely Bernice, and you might be wondering, why have I got Bernice in a glass case? Now this is because Pete Hughes came up with a genius way of displaying how we're going to put Bernice together, because I think one thing that might put off maybe someone who is starting to craft and use papercraft and use Colorized dies, someone might be put off by the challenge that comes with it, but I want to show you how little of a challenge it is and how enjoyable the experience of putting it together is. So let me angle you down to my work area. There we go. So let's have a look. So we first have this layer here. This is the base layer. Now all Colorized dies, they come with the instructions written on the back. So this one I think says pink 1. Now we've done Bernice in grey this time, but if you know, it says pink 1, pink 2, pink 3, so you know that these are all different gradients of one colour. So then we would have grey 2, or pink 2 should I say, and then it just goes in really obvious layers where you can see it coming together before your very eyes. You can see all the shadows and the shading where it's supposed to be, and then we carry on with some of the finer details here, and then the final little bit is just those really tiny details. Let me just level it all up together, which is going to look like this. And once you've put this die set together, what I love about them is that your card is basically done. Now, I've built my own Bernice in pink, so using those different pinks that are suggested on the back. And I wanted to show you, before I do my make, I just printed off a really quick sentiment, which is the same sentiment that I'm going to be using today, just a different style. But just imagine this as a card by itself. Because Bernice here, she is the star of the show, so all you need to do is, you could literally put Bernice on a blank piece of paper and it's a lovely card in itself. But if you include some kind of, I mean, get it? Hip for hippo? I hope it's not just me who finds that really funny, but there we go. We've got hip, hip, hooray. So it's the same sentiment that I've used today. But just look at how this card's finished off just with the addition of Bernice when she's put together. But I'm going to take Bernice off to one side for now. I'm going to put her there. I'm going to put this away. I'll use it another time, because today I want to show you a technique that I'm going to use to make a really nice card with Bernice in her natural setting. So we are going to start with my multi-tool and some of our Tim Holtz Distress inks from Ranger. Now, we are now including Ranger mini distress ink pads on our website, so make sure you go over to the Tim Holtz hub and have a look at the products, the third-party products, which I have recently done another live video about, so you can find out all the information there. But just go to our website and have a look what's there. So all I'm going to do is ink this whole white piece of card. So this is just going to be the background. Now when I say that Bernice is going to be in her natural habitat, obviously hippos are mammals, but they are water dwelling mammals. which means that we can have Bernice sat in water. And that's what I'm doing today, because I love making a nice watery background with distress inks. So there's the first stage. Now I'm not going to complete the whole thing because it would be boring to watch, and I've prepared one earlier. So I'm going to come in with a little bit. That was Salty Ocean. Now we're going to come in with a bit of peacock feathers, just to add a few different kind of tones to the water and liven it up a bit. So the next stage, I'm going to take some of my crushed olive. I'm going to apply this directly to my craft mat. Give one little spray, maybe two, with my distress spray. And then I'm going to pick up a few little bits of this lovely crushed olive green colour. And there we are, we're just adding some lively tones to that water scene. And you can use as many different colours as you like with this. I like to pick up the droplets all around, so we're getting messier and messier, and that is good when you're creating a background like this, because you can keep going back over and inking again in the places that you're not happy with. But I love all those kind of splashy little marks there. Now, I will carry on next. So actually, do you know what I would do next with this? Once this whole thing was finished and I'd gone over it with loads of different techniques there, I could go over this again in the corners, you know, soften them up. Then finally, what we're going to do is I'm going to tear some craft card. I'm going to hand tear it because I want an organic sea floor here. And I love this technique of just tearing the craft card, and it gives you an instant sea floor. It's all sandy coloured already. So this, just reaching over for my express glue. There we go. Now I would add this to the bottom here. Obviously this whole thing will be inked in when we do it properly. And then I'm going to snip the edges. You can either do this with a paper trimmer or you can just use scissors like I am now. A little tip here is to rest the blade of the scissors, I'm sure you already know this, against the cardstock to get that nice straight edge. And there we are. So we have that seafloor there that Bernice herself can stand on. Now I cut mine to the size where Bernice is going to be sticking off each edge, because I think it's going to give it a really nice illustrative feel there, where this background isn't quite covering Bernice and it acts almost like a comic panel where sometimes they're coming out the side, and I really love that. So I'm going to come in with the one that I've prepared earlier, and you can see on this one I've softened the edges with some vintage photo. You don't have to do this, but I just love it, especially when we're doing a kind of more mixed media style make, like we do when we're using Tim Holtz Dies. I like to make it a bit more kind of mixed media and almost try and imitate Tim's style as best as I can. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to carry on darkening these corners here. I'm not going to go mad. There we go. Just come in a little bit further and then. Perfect. Now, what is left to do? Well, Bernice obviously needs to go on here. Luckily, I've put some strips of our fantastic foam tape on the back. All I'm going to do is peel the top layer of these off. Like this. Now you can see me throwing these on the floor. I promise everybody that I am going to pick these up afterwards. I'm especially promising that to my mother and the cleaner. So there we are. Bernice is standing out. Because we've used those foam tapes, we've got that dimensional element there. And it's really, really cool. But we've still got all this space up here. And I know it already looks lovely with the effect that we've created, but I have decided to use a Chapter 1 Tim Holtz die, and this is bubbling. Now, I have, if I've still got it, I have still got it. I chose bubbling because I know that this is a mask die and this is one that you're meant to use the actual die cut piece, but I love the aperture of this die because we've got all those really organic shaped bubbles in there that you can use as die cut pieces in themselves. So I'm going to bring on my big shot, take my little bit of white card, and I'm actually going to run this through a few times just to make sure that these are all coming out. You don't need to, but just for the safety of it on the live video. So let's move big shot off to one side, and then I'm going to poke some of these out with my die pick. The die pick comes in extra handy when we have dies like this. There we go. And I don't need too many. I want some big and some small, because that's going to liven the scene up. We don't want to just have all the same size bubbles. I want some really small ones as well. Oh, and there's one. And I'm going to take these bubbles and add them to my scene. So I will apply a bit of express glue to my mat because it's a nice little tip that Pete showed me, and just use that. And I'm going to place the bubbles, so the smaller bubbles are going to be coming from Bernice's, towards Bernice's nostrils or mouth, or wherever she's breathing from. And then the larger ones, as bubbles do, are going to be more towards the surface. We don't need much glue at all. I want some to be right next to each other and some to be a bit further away. There we go. So we've got the small ones left to place. And I like doing this because we can have a really sporadic pattern of bubbles that just paints a picture. And my last one, I think I'm going to do over here. There we go. Now, so far, we've got Bernice sitting on the seabed or the pond bed, wherever she lives. But we've still got this space here. Now, I thought this would be a lovely space for a sentiment. So I have pre-printed some Dymo style letters here, and as I said earlier, we're still using that hip hip hooray sentiment, which I think is hilarious, and I came up with it all by myself. Now, before I stick them down, I am going to just have a look around at where I like them. I'd already decided I want them to be a bit skewed. I don't want it to be all straight. There we go. To me, that is perfect. It just creates liveliness in the scene. And when I'm kind of concepting and creating compositions, I really like to play about with the angles and the layering, which also I've recently done a vlog about. So go and have a look on YouTube at that. Now, there we go. So there is the scene. I'm really happy with this so far. All there is left to do is to put it on my card front. So I pre-cut my card front so that we've got a little white frame around this nice front element here. And there we are. So I'm going to set it, I'm going to try and get it as kind of centered as possible. And there we go. So all I need to do is just hold that down, let the glue do its job. It doesn't take very long at all. And while I'm doing this, I'm also going to angle the camera back up so we can finish off the live. And how about that? Now, what I'm trying to get across to you is that these techniques in the background, they are, you know, they're almost not needed, but they're really fun to do. So I wanted to add these to this scene. Obviously now Bernice is sat on the seabed. I put a little tiny bit of shadow underneath where her feet are, and I think that this sentiment just finishes the whole thing off. And how about that? Now, this was my make, but we do have some more examples. So the genius that is Pete Hughes has come up with this one over here. How great is that? So with this, Pete hasn't followed the kind of rules on the back. He's inked his own card and then built it up in that way. So that's also an option. And then we've got Hippo, birthday to you. And this die, the name of it's escaping me at the moment, but go and have a look. This is also a Chapter 2 die, which comes up in a lot of Pete's makes because it's absolutely lovely. Now this is my favourite. I wish I'd thought of this myself, but it says, unicorn is a state of mind. And there we have Bernice, and she's wearing a little tie-on horn there. So how cute is that? But again, all it is, it's a card, it is a sentiment, and Bernice, the star of the show, has just been added to the card afterwards. So it just shows how these colorized die sets can complete your makes. So that is Bernice. We do have another colorized die set in Chapter 2, and that is Rupert, the dragon. I love Rupert. So there we go. Need some help with those candles. That's a great sentiment. And then here is an inked version of Rupert, just to finish off. So you can see just from these two dies that I've shown you how great this new set of Chapter 2 dies is. So make sure you go over to the Sizzix website. Again, that's sizzix.co.uk or sizzix.com if you're in the US. And have a look at the whole range. Now, my question to you is, what is your favourite Tim Holtz Colorized die and why? And I'd love to see your answers in the comments. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time.